Hello everyone, welcome to What I Watched This Year, aka my 2023 letterboxd Wrapped. So with the statistics that Letterboxd gave me and some data that I've collected myself throughout the year, I have constructed this little presentation, which I'll show you in a minute. Obviously inspired by Spotify Wrapped, summing up my year in film, my year in letterboxd, and then we'll go briefly on every month and what I watched. So this is going to be a longer one. Grab something to eat, strap in, and let's go. So this is my letterboxd Wrapped 2023. You've watched 126 movies this year, films this year. That is 12,989 minutes. So that's 216 hours. That's a little bit over 9 days straight of watching movies. That's a decent amount of movies. I feel like I watched a lot of movies. Like Letterboxd showed me like every week, like how many movies I watched every week. I think like only 3 of them I didn't watch any. So like every week of the year, apart from like 3 or maybe 4, I watched at least one movie. That's a lot, I feel like. Anyways, your most watched genre this year is, drumroll please, comedy. Yay! And these are some comedies that I liked a lot. You've watched 52 comedies this year, including Shithouse, The Edge of 17, Liar Liar, Barbie, and Are You There God? It's Me Margaret. Great movies. We'll talk about them a bit later. But your highest rated genre this year is animation, of course. You've watched 25 animated films with an average rating of 4.28. That's a really good rating. So we have Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Tangled, The Prince of Egypt, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. That's really hard to say. You have watched 9 films themed emotional and touching family dramas. This is very specific, but this is just like, that's what Letterboxd gave me. These are your top 5: Lady Bird, Room, Fabelmans, Big Fish, and Little Women. Your most watched actor is, drumroll please, Josh Hutcherson with 6 films. White Boy of the Month for you, White Boy of the Year for me. So 6 films, that's the 4 Hunger Games films, Five Nights at Freddy's, and Bridge to Terabithia. Your highest rated actor is Haley Steinfeld with an average rating of 5. I think Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, and The Edge of 17. Here are your most watched directors. At number 5, we have Kelly Fremon Craig with 2 movies. She's the director of The Edge of 17, which we just talked about, and Are You There God? It's Me Margaret. At number 4, we have Lenny Abramson with 2 films again. He's the director of Room and Frank. Again, great movies. At number 3, we have Dylan Joseph Chitrit with 2 films. That's actually kind of funny. You probably do not know who this man is because he's an independent filmmaker in Israel. We actually went to high school together. He's 2 years older than me. So he directed 2 short films, which I watched in November. It's kind of nice to see smaller filmmakers. At number 2, we have Greta Gerwig with her films, Lady Bird, Barbie, and Little Women. She's my favorite director, by the way. So at number 1, it is Francis Lawrence, the director of Hunger Games. Love the Hunger Games saga. It's a big year for Hunger Games fans. And here are your highest rated directors. At number 5, we have Charlotte Wells, the director of After Sun, 5 stars of course. At number 4, we have the trio directors for Into the Spider-Verse. We have Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman. Then at number 4, it's only fitting that at number 3 we have the trio directors for Across the Spider-Verse, Cam Powers, Joaquim Dos Santos, and Justin K. Thompson. To number 2, which is Bo Burnham with Inside and Inside the Outtakes. And at number 1, we have Greta Gerwig. Your top month was May. You've watched 18 films in May. That's a lot. Does May have 31 days or 30? I'm gonna say 31 for the benefit of the doubt. So 31 divided by 18, 1.7. So that almost 2 movies a day. Your highest rated month was July, with an average rating of 4.4. That's really good. I don't really remember what I watched in July. We'll get to that later, I guess. We'll find that out together. Here are your most watched movies of 2023. At number 5, we have Lady Bird. You've watched this movie twice. Oh yeah, just remember, this is going to be very anticlimactic. Number 4, we have Barbie. You've watched this movie twice. Are you seeing where this is going? At number 3, we have After Sun. I've watched it twice. At number 2, we have Surf's Up, which I've also watched twice. And at number 1, this is going to be a plot twist actually, it's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which I watched 3 times. Here are some statistics on your rewatches this year. 53 out of 126 were rewatches, that is 42%. Your most nostalgic month was March with 66% rewatches. Your most adventurous month was November with 0 rewatches. And this is where it ends very abruptly. That's it. That's my picture, like my profile photo in letterboxd. Yep, so that is the presentation. Okay, so starting off was January. I actually have a what I watched this month specifically on January of this year, so if you want to, you can go ahead and watch it there or there. I just don't want this video to be longer than it has to be. I don't want to repeat myself, so if you want a more detailed review of these movies, you can go ahead and watch that. Right now I'll go over quickly like what I watched, the statistics and stuff. So January, The Good Nurse, Shrek 2, Barbarian, The Fabelmans, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, The Whale, All Quiet on the Western Front, and Shithouse. Those are 9 movies. 2 of them are rewatches. It came to 1,056 minutes, which is 17.6 hours. The average rating is 3.8, which is pretty good. And the overall genre of this month is drama comedy. My favorite movie that I watched is probably The Fabelmans, followed shortly by Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and my least favorite is All Quiet on the Western Front. I didn't connect with it. Also, Shithouse is really great. Moving on to February, which I also coincidentally have a what I watched this month, specifically on February of this year, which again, you can go ahead and watch here or here for a more detailed review of these movies. But this month I watched X, Pearl, Tangled, The Maze Runner Bros, and The Unbelievable Weight of Massive Talent. These are 6 movies, 2 of them are rewatches. That is 643 minutes, which is 10.7 hours. Average rating of 3.8 again. And the overall genre is horror, comedy, and action. Favorite movie, it's Tangled, but from the not rewatches, it's The Unbelievable Weight of Massive Talent. And my least favorite is probably X. Moving on to March. But this is where we're gonna actually need to talk about the movies that I watched. So in March, I watched Tar, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantamania, The Edge of 17, Chicago, Big Fish, The Hunger Games Catching Fire, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, and The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. Those are 9 movies. 6 of them are rewatches. That is 1,174 minutes of watch time, which is 19.5 hours. Average rating is 4.06, and the overall genre is action sci-fi, obviously dominated by the Hunger Games franchise. My favorite movie is probably Chicago out of the not rewatches, and Tar is probably my least favorite. But now let's go into detail about each movie, starting with Tar. So Tar was mostly confusing for me. The opening scene is very throwing you into the water to a very wordy, complicated scene with a lot of explanation and terms being explained to you, which I found difficult to catch up and follow along. And I think that initial shock just stayed with me throughout the whole movie and just shaped the entire watching experience. Anyways, I don't really have much more to say about Tar. I wish I liked this movie better. Moving on to Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantamania. I don't hate this movie as much as other people hate it, but I do see how it's just a garbage CGI monster with a lot of build up to Kang, which I never really was excited for, and everything that's happening right now with the actor, I don't know what they're gonna do with it, but I don't want to get into it as well. I think what makes me not hate this movie as much is just basically Paul Rudd. The more the time passes and the more I think about it, I like it less. So I just want to keep it sweet in the memory, not think about it too hard. I don't know. Moving on to The Edge of 17, which is the first rewatch of this month. What can I say about The Edge of 17? I mean, it was the most relatable thing I've ever seen when I first watched it in, I think, 2016. It all starts when her best friend sleeps with her brother, who she hates, and that kicks things off and puts Nadine out of her comfort zone, starting to realizing herself as a person, who she is as a sister, who she is as a friend, who she is as a partner, who she is as a student even. I'm actively avoiding saying anything very specific about this movie because I do think you should go watch it knowing nothing about it. Not that it's crazy plot twisty and stuff. I just think it's very in the moment. I feel like I'm Harry Styles talking about this movie. Feels like a movie. But yeah, I just love The Edge of 17 a lot. It means a lot to me. It's funny, it's sad, it's heartbreaking, it's relatable. It's a good coming of age story, which are my favorite. I love coming of age stories. Who doesn't? I mean, come on. If you don't like coming of age stories, that's outrageous. Anyways, moving on to Chicago. I'm actually mad at myself that I didn't watch it earlier in my life. It's a musical movie based on a musical from the 70s, based on a stage play from the 20s, I think. And it's great. I mean, I think everyone knows Cell Block Tango, but honestly, every song is so good. Every like musical number, like the choreography, it feels very modern, but also very old at the same time. I think they absolutely like nailed the vibes. It's such a fun watch. The genre is musical crime, and honestly, if that doesn't make you want to watch it alone, musical crime. So yeah, Chicago is great. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Don't wait, just watch it. From now on, by the way, they're all rewatches. So Big Fish was a rewatch. I honestly thought for the longest time that it was just a dream, because if you watched Big Fish, you know this movie kind of is like a dream. There's magical sequences that don't really, every part is very distinct from the other, which is kind of like dreams work. It just kind of jump from one thing to the other, like with no really explanation to why or how you got there, which is kind of the nature of the movie and some of its charm and magic. Other than the magical aspect that this movie has, I think the emotional core in it is very, very strong between father and son. Their relationship is very interesting, and it's the core of this movie. Will has never really understood his father. He always told him, Edward always told Will like these magical stories about his great adventures, and Will is trying to figure out his dad and understand who he really is as a man. And in this movie, he tried to put the pieces together of his father. I don't want to say anything about the ending, which is really, really strong. But I think it's a very emotional film and also a very charming film. And again, just a blast to see. Moving on, we have the Hunger Games franchise, which I didn't watch in order. I watched Catching Fire, which is the best one, and then the first one, and then Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2. I just recently read the first book for the very first time, and it's incredible. It's written so well. It adds so much to the movie, which obviously it's supposed to be the other way around, but for me, it adds to the movie. And it's just a great book and great movies, which I think supply a very strong commentary on the world and society. I don't know what else to say. It's the Hunger Games. Moving on to April. We have The Truman Show, Murder Mystery 2, Harry Styles Behind the Album, Three Identical Strangers, Friends the Reunion, Sleeping with Other People, Ghosted, See How They Run, John Mulaney Baby J, Closed Circuit Baby Driver, and The Hunger Games Catching Fire. So those are 12 movies. 4 of them are rewatches that came into 1,153 minutes, which is 19.2 hours. The average rating is 3.1, and the overall genre is comedy documentary. My favorite is probably Three Identical Strangers out of the not rewatches, and my least favorite is Ghosted. So let's start with The Truman Show. Whoever thought of The Truman Show is a genius. It's such a simple premise, but it's so monumental that it leaves this voice in your head for the rest of your life thinking, what if this is happening to me? So The Truman Show, if you don't know, is about a man named Truman who from birth is on a reality TV show where everything around him is fake, everyone is actors, it's all a huge set. The whole city, the whole town he lives in is a huge set. The sky is not even real. It's like a dome, like the Sphere in Las Vegas. The film starts when he's like 30, and things start to get weird. Actually, when I think about it right now, I don't want to go into too much detail about the plot because it is really interesting. It's a bit like heisty, like mystery, like psychological thriller kind of a bit, but it's mostly like emotional. So I think it has everything from everything, including comedy as well. Jim Carrey absolutely nails it. I love him in serious roles. I think comedy actors doing like dramatic roles is the best. So moving on to Murder Mystery 2. I honestly don't remember anything from this movie. I'm just watching Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston do things. It's a fine movie. It's not like absolute shit garbage. You shouldn't watch it. You could watch it. You could have fun with it. Next is Harry Styles Behind the Album. It's not really a movie. Like, no one's watching it for the movie. We're all watching it to see how Harry Styles made his first album, Harry Styles. So I don't think if you don't like Harry Styles, you'd find anything particularly interesting about this movie. Also, there's Harry Styles Beyond the album, the performances, which is like the live performances of the first album. If you are a Harry Styles fan and you didn't know this exists, you're welcome. It's on YouTube. And moving on to Three Identical Strangers. This is a documentary about seemingly a very simple thing, which I didn't understand really, like, what's the big deal about it, because a lot of people praise it and say like, wow, this documentary is really, really good. Because it's about triplets who were separated at birth and found out about each other and has reunited and stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. How can you stretch that to 97 minutes? And then they did. And they build up this thing. I'm not going to say what it is, but the things that get uncovered in this documentary are wow. Really makes you question, again, a lot of things, kind of like the Truman Show did, kind of somehow similar. Really, really, really good documentary, and I absolutely recommend you watching it. Next, I watched the Friends reunion comfort rewatch. Yeah, that's it. Next is another rewatch, Sleeping with Other People. It's just so much more than a romantic comedy. It is written by a woman. Like, this is what people mean when they say, oh, this man is written by a woman. That's all I'm gonna say. Go watch it. Next, we have Ghosted. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. I knew this was gonna be bad when I walked into it, but I was kind of hoping Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, this duo, can salvage this, but no, they really couldn't. It was trash from start to finish. Her wig, what was that? Don't watch it. Moving on to See How They Run. Oh, I wish I liked See How They Run better. It's a murder mystery, Agatha Christie comedy thing. Just very average, sadly. It's disappointing because I was expecting so much better, but I don't know. Sometimes it just doesn't click. Next, I watched John Mulaney's newer special, Baby J. It's not new anymore. But it's the newest, which was weird. He talked a lot about his rehab and his addiction and drugs and stuff, which obviously, understandably, that's his life. So obviously that would be his material. But I didn't enjoy it as much as I did his earlier specials. That's just personal taste, though. You might really, really like this one. Moving on, it's a comedy special, I mean. Next, I watched Closed Circuit, which is an Israeli film documentary about the terrorist attack in Sarona Center. It's all told through security camera footage. Yeah, it's a gimmicky movie. Not too bad, not too great. Moving on to Baby Driver, this is another rewatch. Edgar Wright, if you know his stuff, does very specific style, specifically with editing and specific type of comedy, and I think that type of stuff only caters to a smaller group of people, but this movie is more of a mainstream movie for him, which I think is nice that more people can enjoy, be exposed to this director, like his style in this movie, and then maybe looking into his other stuff and maybe liking them because of Baby Driver. But it's a great movie on its own. I like it a lot. Yeah, moving on to the Hunger Games Catching Fire. So yeah, I watched Catching Fire again. It's a great movie. Come on, it's a great movie. And with that, we're moving on to I've watched Hans Zimmer, Hollywood Rabel, Rain Man, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Lady Bird, Plan 51, Daniel Sloss, Socio Special, A Good Person, Avatar The Way of Water, The Prince of Egypt, Bridge to Terabithia, The Bad Guys, Ella Enchanted, Lady Bird again, Hotel Transylvania, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Burnham Inside the Outtakes, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which obviously is my favorite of the bunch, and my least favorite is Hans Zimmer Hollywood Rebel, I guess. Those are 18 movies, 10 of them are rewatches. That came to 1,911 minutes. That is 31.85 hours. Average rating with 4.1, and the overall genre is comedy, animated, family. So let's start with Hans Zimmer Hollywood Rebel. This is a documentary about Hans Zimmer, a legendary composer in Hollywood. He has very unique signature on his stuff. I love his music, listen to it a lot of the time. I think he opened up the way to more composers like him. I was fortunate enough to watch a live performance of him in Budapest. Yeah, this movie is fine. Again, not too bad, not too good. So moving on to Rain Man, which is another movie which I honestly can't believe I didn't watch earlier. First of all, Tom Cruise absolutely slays in this movie. Shows that he's not just his own stuntman. He can absolutely just carry with his acting. So yeah, good road trip, brother relationship film, which are exactly components of things that I love. Sibling relationships, body films, road trips, recipe for success in my book. Going on with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I think this is the only Marvel movie this year, or just recently, that was actually good and people were really excited to see. I knew Rocket would be like the main focus here, but I didn't realize like how much. He's obviously a very important piece of the puzzle, and he absolutely like brings the Guardians together in kind of invisible way. We got his backstory, which is absolutely heartbreaking. Anyways, really good film. Funny, emotional, finally a sense of character and something that is rooted, something that was planned. I feel like it was made with passion and love and with intent. Moving on to Lady Bird, which is a rewatch. Mommy issues hit hard. Coming of age story hits hard. Saoirse Ronan is incredible in this movie. The script is so good. Greta Gerwig, I mean, what can I say about this woman? She's incredible. Her passion to filmmaking is so clear through her creations. I aspire to be like her. It also makes me homesick to Sacramento, which is weird because I've never been to Sacramento. I'm not even American. Honestly, I'm at loss at word to what to say about this movie. It's just that good. It's just that good. And moving from just that good to Planet 51. It's such an obscure movie. I don't know. I don't know. It's not iconic or anything. It's just a movie that I watched when I was younger and we just wanted to watch it again. Silly concept of an alien planet having a human land on it and like he's the alien one. So it's just like silly, fun movie to watch for an hour and a half. Moving on to Daniel Sloss's special Socio. It's his latest one. I liked his previous ones better. I liked X the most. They all didn't make me laugh hysterically or anything, but the message at the end is what really got to me. And this time it just wasn't, I don't know, I didn't feel this meaningful thing like gut punch that I always get from his other specials. They're all good, but just this one didn't really connect with me as much. Moving on to A Good Person. I had higher hopes for A Good Person. It wasn't bad by any means, but it just wasn't good. Moving on to Avatar: The Way of Water. I think it's obviously very good visually and technically very extraordinary, but the story itself is also really good. A lot of people are saying that the first one is better, but I don't know, the first one kind of always bored me. This one I was never actually bored. It's so long, but I don't know, I enjoyed it a lot, which is weird. I didn't expect to like this much, and I can't wait to Avatar 3 and 4 and 5. I never thought I would say this. I wish Neytiri was in the movie more. She was just pushed to the side. Zoe Saldana is such a great actress, and I wanted to see more of her, and I think there was more to see. And also Sigourney playing a teenager, she did that perfectly. I'm just impressed with how good this movie was and how good my reaction to it was. Moving on to Prince of Egypt, which is a rewatch. I actually don't know what to say about it except that it is incredible. The songs, no one talks about the songs, but the songs are really good and I listen to them daily. And I just recently seen that there's a musical, like a stage musical. I want to watch that. So if anyone knows where the pro shot is, please send it to me or send me to it. Tell me where I can watch it. Okay, so if you didn't know, Prince of Egypt tells the story of Exodus. In its core, it's about a relationship between two brothers, which again, I love to see. I think the story itself is incredible, and this is a great adaptation of that story. Moving on to Bridge to Terabithia, the movie who traumatized all of us. It is a great movie though, with really good acting from both children, Josh Hutcherson of course, and legendary Anna Sophia Robb. If you haven't watched this movie yet, you can just shut it off after Jess goes to the museum with his teacher. Like just right before he gets home, shut the movie off and you'll live a better life. Because if you don't, spoiler alert, Leslie fucking dies. And I think it's abrupt for a reason, but I didn't appreciate it as a child. No one prepared me for this. But the ending is sweet, with the thing he does for his sister. Which again, I'm also a sucker for a sibling relationship. And daddy issues, I mean, come on. Broken family dynamics are my favorite thing in the world. Here, I said it, okay? I said it. Moving on to the bad guys. It was just fine. Villain doesn't want to be a villain anymore. So they become the good guys to be the bad guys, to be actually the good guys again. Moving on to Ella Enchanted. This is a rewatch. Anne Hathaway is a treasure. She's so charming. She's magical in herself. So this role of Ella really elevates that part in her and really suits her very well. Again, this is kind of like a road trip film, kind of, sort of, with elements of romance and like Cinderella. Ella is enchanted as a baby to be obedient. So in her journey to cancel the curse, she finds love and friends and herself, and her own willpower. There are some songs which are great. The comedy is nice. A fun little snuggly rewatch. And then I watched Lady Bird again. And then I watched Hotel Transylvania, the first one. Actually plays on the same gimmick that Planet 51 plays on, that like the monsters are afraid of the human, like it's all reversed. What can I say? It's a great movie. The romance between Mavis and Johnny is adorable. Again, broken family between Dracula and Mavis, and obviously the dead mother. Andy Samberg absolutely carries, and his relationship with Dracula is also really, really great. And that's all I have to say about Hotel Transylvania. Going on to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. What a marvel in animation, what a stepping stone. What can you say about Into the Spider-Verse that hasn't already been said? Everything about it is good. Not just good, everything is great about it. Everything is amazing about it. Animation, voice acting, the drama, the action, the whole story, everyone could wear the mask. I love it. The mentorship between Peter B. Parker and Miles. Oh my god. So I watched that as preparation. This was a rewatch. I watched that as a preparation to Across the Spider-Verse. But wait, before we get there, we need to talk about Inside and Inside the Outtakes. These specials hit so hard during quarantine. I again listen to the soundtrack of both frequently. It's so good. Bo Burnham, I'm jealous of this man, of how he can convey these things throughout the songs, and not only throughout songs, which are hard enough, but throughout everything else in the special, like the lighting, the camera angles, the editing. Moving on to Across the Spider-Verse, probably my movie of the year. It is somehow even better, which I didn't think would be possible. I came in expecting to be disappointed, honestly. Like, I came in with high expectations, but I was like, can they really top what they just did? Sometimes I have a hard time with sequels that like really open up the world and just get so much more into the story. Like, I like the original so much that I don't want anything to change, but this wasn't the case for me in this. I loved it. I loved every single second of it. The Spot is such a great villain. His theme, oh my god, it's hunting. By the way, if we're talking about not conventional composers, Daniel Pemberton, great composer. I know I said it about everything, but I do listen frequently to the soundtrack of both Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. The animation is somehow even better. The action, the story is more intense and more big and somehow more personal. It all ties back to the first one. I cannot wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse. I cannot wait. So with that, great ending for the month. We're moving to June. So Dead Asleep, A Quiet Place, Moonlight, Missing, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse again, Searching, Missing again, How Do You Measure a Year, Inside Out, The Sun, and Hamilton. So those are 11 movies. 6 of them are rewatches. That is 1,155 minutes of watch time, which is 19.25 hours. Average rating of 3.5, and the overall genre is mystery, thriller, drama. Ooh. My favorite out of the rewatches is probably Missing. It's a really good movie. And then my least favorite is the sun. So Dead Asleep is a documentary about future me. I just realized I didn't really explain very well what the documentary is about. So it's about the case of Randy Herman Jr., who was convicted in 2019 of murdering his childhood friend and roommate Brooke Preston. The documentary investigates Herman's claim that he was sleepwalking during the murder and therefore innocent. I don't really want to delve too much into it because Brooke's family did not approve of this documentary, and I just want to be respectful. So that's it. Moving on to A Quiet Place, which is a rewatch. Such a great movie. John Krasinski is, I think, a great director, and Emily Blunt, and their work together, like just their dynamic as just husband and wife, and then actor, director, and actor and actor. I think it's really interesting, and it makes this movie a lot more real. Like the romance is there, the passion is there, the grief is there. I think John Krasinski has said it multiple times, like talking about this movie, but it is a family drama movie disguised as a horror movie. It's a love letter to his daughters and what are the things that he would do to protect his family. And the horror is very original when it first came out, at least. That's it. Moving to Moonlight, which I am so disappointed by. I wanted to watch this and weep and love this, but it just didn't give me anything. My letterboxd review is the poster is better than the movie. And I think that sums up pretty much everything I want to say about this movie, sadly. Moving on to Missing. Missing is quote unquote sequel to Searching. Like it happens in the same universe. It's not directly has anything to do with a character or story from the first one. Like it does references it. The gimmick is it's all happening on screens, like phone screens, computer screens. It's a mystery thriller movie, which I love, and the gimmick makes it more engaging. I think it's very good, like, representation of how media works these days and how the internet works these days. Just like the right amount, felt very real and grounded. It was very creative in the ways it used the internet to solve the mystery, which is basically, so the daughter, who's played by Storm Reid, her name is June, which is a beautiful name. I really like that name. Her mom goes on a vacation with her boyfriend and goes missing there, so she just tries to find her. A lot of twists, turns, very engaging movie. I highly suggest watching it. It's really good. Then I watched Across the Spider-Verse again, and then I watched Searching with my sister. Again, same concept, mystery thriller all through screens. This time it's a dad his daughter goes missing. Again, tries to figure out through the internet. And then I watched Missing again. And then I watched How Do You Measure a Year, which is a short documentary. A dad documenting his daughter throughout the years, just asking her the same questions, kind of like the Billie Eilish interview, but from like really early childhood, like I think since she knew how to speak. The questions were a bit shallow. Obviously, he started when she was like 3 or 4, like she was really young, so he couldn't like ask her existential like questions about life and meaning and stuff. I think it shows like through their interactions, like from behind the camera and stuff, a bit about their relationship as father-daughter. Again, family dynamics, something I like a lot. It's nice, it's cute. Next I watched Inside Out. I don't love this movie like some people do. It's good, very emotional. Again, coming of age story, broken family dynamics. I see there's a pattern here. Yeah, I think everyone knows what Inside Out is. Next we have The Son. It's a not sequel, but from the same creators of The Father with Olivia Colman and Anthony Hopkins, which was incredible, but this just wasn't it. So this one is about a son obviously struggling with mental health and his parents' divorce. It was just very shallow. In The Father, for example, who was about the daughter-father relationship between Olivia Colman and Anthony Hopkins, who is struggling with dementia, I felt like there was deep understanding of the subject matter, and The Son just didn't have any of that. So sorry, but don't watch The Son, watch The Father. Next is Hamilton, another rewatch. Yeah, what can you say about Hamilton? Obviously I listen to the soundtrack on a daily basis. So that concludes June. Here goes July. So I watched Knock at the Cabin, Stay Awake, Don't Peek, Liar Liar, Nimona, Frank, Little Women, Chicken Run, Megamind, Despicable Me, and Barbie. So that is 11 movies, 5 of them are rewatches. That is 1008 minutes of watch time, which is 16.8 hours, average rating of 4.4. And the overall genre is comedy animated. Let's start with Knock at the Cabin. Didn't have high expectations for this. I think what made it better than expected is the acting. So yeah, the plot wasn't wow. It was interesting but kind of left you hanging, but it kind of left you with a bad taste in your mouth. Moving on to Stay Awake. It's about a dysfunctional family again. A mother struggling with addiction and her 2 sons feeling responsible to take care of her, while also obviously growing up, dealing between themselves, dealing with relationships they have, etc. Should be right up my alley, but I don't know, the execution wasn't that great. It was very repetitive. Nothing actually really happens and nothing really changes. It's not a really bad movie, but it's not a really good movie. I wouldn't recommend watching it. That's what I'm saying. But if it sounds like it could interest you, maybe you should watch it, and maybe you would have a different opinion than me. Next we have Don't Peek, which is a short horror movie. It does a job really well. It's basically a woman playing this game that is like in her room, and like the things that happen in the game also happen in real life. There's not much to uncover there because it's just like 7 minutes, but it is really like I think I like horror, like short horror, better than like feature horror films, because in short horror films you don't have to resolve anything. You can just show the scary part and you don't need to reveal the monster or the backstory behind it. You can just show the scary thing and that's it. You can just scare people and terrify them and that's it. Moving on with Liar Liar. I can't believe I didn't watch it earlier. Again, Jim Carrey. This is a drama disguised as a comedy. Again, dysfunctional family, father-son relationships, divorced parents relationships. It is funny, but obviously there is an emotional core that drives the whole thing. Great movie, great watch. Next we have Nimona, doing the newer style of animation, which I love. I think the character dynamics are what this movie did really great. Nimona's relationship with Ballister Boldheart, that's the core of the movie. Again, kind of a body film. Moving on to Frank, which is a rewatch. It's a great movie. Basically, there's this band with the lead singer Frank, or just like the lead band member Frank, who has a plaster head he wears all the time. And the character of John, he's an aspiring musician. He doesn't really have muse, and then he kind of coincidentally joins this band on a trip, I would say, to record an album. And the message is, you don't need to be mentally ill to make good art, which is a misconception a lot of people have, that artists need to be these traumatized, depressed people that from that hurt and suffer, they can create this art. Like, that's John's perspective on this. So he just assumes that something really bad happened to Frank when he was a kid or something that made him put this head on and be this incredible musician who knows what he wants. Like, the music they do is not like mainstream music, it's obscure music, like very niche, but they do know what they want to do and how they want to sound and what their aspiration as a band are. And John is jealous of that ability, and he thinks that these people have this ability because they are broken inside, especially Frank, specifically Frank. And the message in the end is that they don't correlate to each other. Yes, he happens to be mentally ill, and the other members of the band are like unstable mentally, and they're maybe weird and misfits, but the fact that they're different and maybe broken inside or mentally ill doesn't give them the ability to make music and make art and create. And I think that's really beautiful, and it's told in a really simple way, and like all the drama between the members of the band is really interesting, and it's fun, and it's funny at times, and it's sad at other times, and it's acted really great. I love movies that the main character, which in this instance is John, is not like inherently a bad person, but is not the best person, and they have a self-discovery journey throughout the film to make them a better person. It's a good movie. It feels unique. I think it's severely underrated. A really great watch, and I really recommend watching it. Also, I do listen to music from this movie sometimes. And then I watched Little Women again. I love Greta Gerwig. Again, I'm gonna say it. She has this way of making her movies so warm, if you know what I mean. They're so homey and like you feel like they're hugging you in a way. Little Women is definitely that. I love movies about women, and the way Greta makes movies about women and her perspective on women is not derogatory towards men, which we're gonna get to in Barbie in a second, by the way. It's just praising women and seeing women as people first and not just women or vessels for men to use or own. And the way she talks about this movie, oh, so beautiful. Like she knows, she understands every single thing about these characters and this world. She directs it so beautifully. The way she wrote it, I don't know what it's called, but she wrote like when one character is speaking, another character is supposed to be speaking at the same time, and she wrote it in a way where things were overlapping, which is like how normal conversations are, but specifically between siblings, specifically between sisters. So I think that's very unique to this movie, this adaptation of the story, and the way she talks about taking their art and their talents and their hobbies serious, and not just as hobbies, but their actual aspiration for life. Joe as a writer, Amy as a painter, Mag as an actress, and Beth as a musician. And Beth's death, spoiler by the way, she talks about how she's not destined to die, it's just something that happened to her, and her talent was just as serious as the other girls, and her passion for art was just as serious as the other girls, and if she hadn't happened to die, she would have become as great as the other girls. And again, the whole thing with the family and the whole thing with Laurie and Timothée Chalamet, oh, he's a great actor. And him and Saoirse Ronan, obviously, also in Lady Bird, they're really great together, and with Greta Gerwig is just a recipe for success. So yeah, I love Little Women. Then I watched Chicken Run, which is another rewatch. I watched it when I was a kid and I was traumatized, and I didn't remember how traumatizing this movie is because I was traumatized again. But it's very charming. Obviously, claymation, the art form itself is admirable. The amount of time that goes into it is incredible and just something to really cherish. It is a fun film. It is funny. The British humor is very specific, but it's very, I don't know, it works for me. Some of it at least. I think that sums it up pretty good actually. Going on to Megamind. I want to talk because later on I watched Despicable Me, like the next movie is Despicable Me, both rewatches, and I want to talk about them together because they share a lot of things. But I just want to say once and for all, Megamind is superior. It just feels less childish. I also have this thing in my mind where I think Will Ferrell is the voice of Megamind and Steve Carell is the voice of Gru. In The Office, obviously Steve Carell is Michael Scott, and there's an episode where Will Ferrell is the new boss, and obviously Steve Carell is the better one there. And I was like, yeah, finally Will Ferrell is better than Steve Carell at doing the same thing. It's always on my mind when I think about these movies, and I finally get to vocalize it to you. So you have it now. And I'm not saying Despicable Me is bad, by the way. It's a good movie as well. I love it a lot. Again, father-daughter relationship, kind of like broken family dynamics. They're both good. Yep, moving on to Barbie. A friend of mine voiced her concern about like bringing Barbie back. Like bringing her back to the spotlight is bad because like they're trying to cover up the damage that they did to little girls and their body image and stuff, which by the way would have happened without Barbie. Like the reason Barbie set this unreal body standard for girls and women is because people decided that a doll is the desired body for women. And obviously this movie is produced by Mattel, so they can't really shit on Barbie, and like they want to like make Barbie seem like a better thing that it was. But I don't think it's harmful in any way. Barbie is every girl. I am Barbie. Every woman is Barbie. They're not pushing in the movie the stereotypical Barbie body image, and they even laugh about the stereotypical Barbie thing, how she's supposed to be blonde and beautiful and dumb, and that's it. And there are other Barbies who are a lot more. There's President Barbie and Author Barbie and every single occupation there is in the world, which Barbie was everything, and Ken was just Ken. That's just like how the toy was always, by the way. No one had a Ken, and if they did, all he was an accessory to Barbie. That's how the toy was made. So that's not a new idea that the movie came up with, that Ken are just accessories to Barbie. It just happened to be in a lot of movies and stories and narratives, women play that role of Ken, of that accessory to the men, to the main character. And maybe I'm brainwashed and Mattel got me, but any man who says that Barbie is derogatory towards men or a movie that hates men just didn't watch the movie. Barbie is a great movie. It's funny, it's emotional, it's thrilling a bit. Ryan Gosling was great as Ken. I'm Just Ken, such a great song which I listen to a lot. Margot Robbie was obviously insanely great. America Ferrera, Michael Cera as Ellen, and the ending where she goes to her gynecologist, it's the perfect ending, and I'm gonna tell you why. A lot of people were like, oh, that's how you're gonna end the movie, because going to the gynecologist is embarrassing. No, it's not embarrassing. It's something that every woman needs to do in her life to be healthy, and seeing Barbie do it like so happily and not shameful normalizes it. It's important to see these bigger than life characters like Barbie do these things that we humans deal with or need to do that are not talked about enough to feel comfortable with doing them ourselves. Moving to August, I watched Oppenheimer, No Hard Feelings, The Prestige, Frozen, After Sun, Black Widow, Red, White, and Royal Blue, and Game Night. Those are 8 movies, 4 of them are rewatches. That's 965 minutes, which is a bit more than 16 hours. Average rating of 3.9, and the overall genre is drama comedy. Let's start with Oppenheimer, the absolute opposite of Barbie. But unlike Barbie, I sadly didn't really like Oppenheimer, and it's kind of similar to what I talked about with Tar. There was a lot of information, a lot of talking and terms and names that I needed to remember that just overwhelmed me. I just couldn't follow, and I felt stupid for sitting there watching and trying to understand what's going on. It felt really long, and other than being confused the whole time, there was no mention at all to the victims of the actual atomic bomb, like the Japanese. And I think this movie distanced itself so far from the actual victims of this creation that it doesn't even correlate to us in our mind that this creation, this man, killed so many people. They're using the victims as a tool to make us feel bad for Oppenheimer. And they even say in the movie, Kitty says it, Emily Blunt, her character, says something like, you can't commit the sin and expect us to forgive you for its consequences. And I was like, yeah, you're right on the money, but where is this energy then? Like, you know what I mean? It mostly made us feel bad for Oppenheimer, for the sin he does. And I am an empath. I did feel bad for Oppenheimer in the theater. He did show regret, but look what he's created. Look what he's done. Sure, it was a great contribution to science and our understanding of the atom. Sure, he just wanted to understand the theory of the thing, but people abuse this kind of power. Any power that you'll give people, they'll abuse it. So how can you think of such a thing and not understand that it's going to be used eventually against someone else? So I was confused because of all the information and people and things, and then I was just disappointed that that's all what we saw. Oppenheimer feeling bad. Yeah, moving on to a little more lighthearted thing, No Hard Feelings. This was great. It was funny. The premise, very simple. Jennifer Lawrence needs money, specifically a car, and there's a couple who suggest giving their family car, in terms of you dating their son, just to get him out of his shell and let him feel more comfortable with himself. And apparently it's a real thing. This movie is based on a real ad people put out. So that's kind of weird. I can't believe it's actually real. I do believe it's real, but that makes it even funnier, I feel like. The relationship between Jennifer and Andrew was immaculate. They were great together. Andrew is really, really good. I know him from Dear Evan Hansen, and Jennifer Lawrence obviously is great. Moving on to The Prestige. This and Inception are the reasons I said for a long time that Christopher Nolan is my favorite director. Obviously now Greta Gerwig is my favorite director, which is kind of funny with the Barbenheimer thing. So The Prestige, if you haven't seen it, please please, 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 please go watch it. I'm not gonna say anything about what's actually happening. I'm just gonna give a vague synopsis. It's a rivalry between two magicians trying to like outsmart each other with magic tricks, which sounds lame now that I'm explaining it like that. But it's Christopher Nolan. He deals with timeline things and twists and turns. Absolutely genius movie. The way it builds and builds and builds and builds and reveals itself, kind of like a magic trick. It's incredible. Next is Frozen, not Disney's Frozen. Another Frozen, which is a horror movie about 3 friends who get stuck on a ski conveyor belt. There's probably a name for that. So they get stuck on that. I think what makes it is the acting. The acting is actually pretty good, and the dynamic between the group of friends. Now, Aftersun. And I think what's so special about this movie is how it stuck with me. Like, I watched this movie and I felt all the things I felt during it, and then I couldn't stop thinking about it for weeks. It's basically this summer vacation of a father and his daughter in Turkey. Sophie is the kid. So adult Sophie is trying to remember this vacation with her dad. It's kind of like has the same energy of Big Fish, kind of like trying to piece together her dad as an adult through her memories of this vacation. And I really, really don't want to say any more, but it's really, really beautiful, and it's really resonated with me for some reason. It's beautiful not only thematically but visually. I don't want to ruin it for you, so please go watch Aftersun. Next, I rewatched Black Widow with my sister. Yeah, it's a good movie. It has everything. Again, broken family dynamics. So that and a spy story, action, mystery, thriller, all the good stuff. It's one of the better MCU movies that came out after Endgame. Next is Red, White, and Royal Blue. Oh, how much I wanted to like this movie a lot. I'm assuming the book is better and has a lot more space to breathe between things. They went from being enemies to being friends to being lovers in like 2 minutes, and I'm not even exaggerating. There's a scene where there's enemies and then they talk and then they're like, oh wait, maybe we are friends, and then the scene later they kiss. So yeah, that happened way too fast. I don't know, it was just not it for me at all. Next is Game Night, which is a rewatch for me, but I watched it with my brother for the first time of his, and he really liked it, which is really fun. It's a comedy thriller with twists and turns. It's made really, really well. The acting is really good. The comedy is really good. This couple who loves game nights and stuff, like charades and whatever, they have this group of friends that they do game nights with. His brother, who's more successful than him and stuff, comes to town, bratty and stuff, and like takes over game night and does like a murder mystery party, and things go a bit wrong. And yeah, I'm not gonna reveal anything. So moving on to we had Surf's Up, She Said, Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, Matilda the Musical, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse again, Knives Out, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Barbie again, and Elemental. That is 9 movies. 4 of them are rewatches. That is 1,025 minutes of watch time, which is a bit over 17 hours, with an average rating of 4.1, and the overall genre is comedy animated. My least favorite is She Said, and my favorite out of the non-rewatches is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Surf's Up is such a treasure of a movie. I know it's kind of like not related to anything, but it should be in the Hall of Fame of animation, which I don't think it is, sadly. It's a mockumentary, animated mockumentary, which is brilliant, about the surfer penguin. This is just another movie that seemed like it was so fun to make, and like just like it was said like as a joke and stuff, and then they just made it because they could, which I love. I think it has like a little renaissance now because there's a sound on TikTok from the movie.
I don't understand why everybody has to be so judgmental. I understand why mom's judgmental. I think it's because she cares, partially. I think it's also partially because everyone else is looking at her like, hey, Cody's just a bum. Cody's this, Cody's that, Cody's this. Cody's me, bro. Let me be me. When is that gonna start?
So it has a little bit of renaissance, which is why I remembered it from my childhood and decided to rewatch. And it did not disappoint. It's funny, it's heartwarming, it's fun. It's everything you want in an animated movie. And the documentary and like mockumentary part of it is really creative and really differentiates it from other animated movies. Next, there is She Said. So She Said is based on a true story of Harvey Weinstein. It follows the writers who exposed him in the New York Times and how they needed to find women to talk about this without being afraid, and no one would talk without anyone else talking. But how would anyone else talk if no one else talks? You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that they were stuck at. Kind of reminds me of Spotlight in concept, like from the perspective of a newspaper covering controversial sexual misconduct problem. And I think Spotlight is way better than this because, I don't know, just it was too long in my opinion. I just didn't like it as much as I liked Spotlight. And I don't remember specifically anything about Spotlight. I watched it like 5 years ago, but I remember liking it a lot, like being very invested in the story. And this, I wasn't invested at all. It jumped like from one thing to the other, like just things weren't smooth, which is sad. Again, this is a very important thing to talk about, but it's just not the best execution. Moving on to Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Such a lovely coming of age story. So Margaret deals with moving to another city, developing her body, getting a period and stuff, her relationships with her mother and father, and religion, which is the big part. But it's not like serious, religion, blah, 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 blah. It's very lightheartedly. It's very nice. I think it's very like appropriate, like the tone and stuff. Her mom's Christian and her dad's Jewish. They didn't raise her as any, and they said to her that she could choose when she wants to. So she has a hard time choosing between this, which I think is an interesting concept to add to growing up and the coming of age story. I think it spices things up and what differentiates it from other coming of age stories. And I think it's done in very good taste. There's no talking bad about Christianity. There's no talking bad about Judaism. So it's not malicious, which is really, really nice. It's really heartwarming, lighthearted. It was funny. It was emotional. Again, family dynamics, not dysfunctional. It's not kind of dysfunctional with the grandparents and stuff. But it's very relatable, even as a 21-year-old. Anyway, moving on to another nice coming of age kids kind of story. Matilda, the musical. I have a confession to make. I have not watched the original Matilda. Please don't kill me. So Matilda, the very known story of this unwanted child. So dysfunctional parents, dysfunctional family, with this scary school, with this scary principal, evil principal, and finding shelter in books and imagination and storytelling, and her teacher. Matilda navigates the world against all odds to become a good person despite her environment. And it's really sweet. It's a really sweet story, and the songs are great as well. Then I rewatched Across the Spider-Verse, and then I watched Knives Out again with my younger brother. So Knives Out, if you somehow didn't watch it, first of all, go watch it, please. I'm not gonna reveal anything, but please go watch it. It's a whodunit mystery. Has the duo Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, but this time they're good together and not like in Ghosted. The set design is obviously beautiful. The cinematography, wow, everything is so beautiful in this movie. Yeah, twists and turns as usual. Dysfunctional family again, and it's done so cleverly. It's a good mystery. It's clever. It's really good. So go watch it. Next is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I was so excited to watch this movie. I was willing to go alone, but then I found someone to go watch it with me who was as excited as I was, and we had a blast, you guys. This movie, again, with the newer style of animation, just chef's kiss, everything. Wow, it was great. I love these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're finally teenagers. I feel like in every other version of them, they're adults, but this time they are teenagers, which was great, and they were great teenagers. They just seemed so wholesome, their characters, and this movie is so cute and nice and just so fun. Again, this was a passionate project. I can tell that the people who made it liked what they were working on. And we get this. Coming back to Barbie, I don't know if I said it back then, but they were definitely passionate about making this as well, everyone involved. Let's go to Elemental. The Pixar disappointment. I thought I would be disappointed, and honestly, I wasn't overly disappointed. I was just the right amount of disappointed. 4 elements: water, fire, earth, air. And basically, fire are immigrants and like an immigrant story. And then there's the love story between Amber and Wade. So Amber is a fire and Wade is water. So obviously like forbidden love, like Romeo and Juliet kind of love. Like it's a movie to put on to go to sleep to, you know, like just to have something in the background, something nice and colorful in the background to like go to sleep, doze off to sleep to. Moving to October. How to Train Your Dragon, The Duke, Take Care of Maya, Fleabag, Love at First Sight, 5 Feet Apart, Shiva Baby, After Sun, Surf's Up, Room, Once Upon a Studio, Frances Ha, Whiplash, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules. So those are 15 movies, 9 of them are rewatches. That is 1,360 minutes, which is 22.6 hours. Average rating of 3.9, and the overall genre is drama comedy. Starting with How to Train Your Dragon, I'm gonna say something maybe controversial here. I do not like any of the How to Train Your Dragon like sequels. You almost killed me there. No, I love the first one, but the second and third, nuh-uh. Now that that's out of the way, this movie is great. If you haven't watched it somehow, go watch it. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful film. Good messages. Again, dysfunctional family, relationships between father and son. Also coming of age story. How to be confident in yourself and find out what you're good at and your strength, and a little love story as well, all in the disguise of like this magical dragon word. That's How to Train Your Dragon. Moving on to The Duke. This is also a rewatch. Simply lovely, based on a true story film about this man who stole a painting of the Duke as a protest, standing for what he thinks is right. It's nice, it's cute, it's funny, it's a bit emotional. Give it a try if you want like a cozy watch. Next is Take Care of Maya. It's a documentary on Netflix about horrible case. So Maya has a lot of health problems and chronic pain. It was really hard to diagnose her, but she is diagnosed with CRPS, which is a disease that can be treated with ketamine. One night they take her to the ER with those symptoms. The hospital thought that this is a case of child abuse. Basically took Maya from her parents' custody for basically Munchausen by proxy. The social worker in the hospital, that's what they accused the parents of. That leads to the mother, Bida, who is very devoted to Maya and her care, to commit suicide. And it came out that this specific hospital and this specific social worker have accused many parents of abusing their children. So they're suing the hospital. In September, they did have their trial and they won $261 million in total to compensate for everything and punitive damages, which obviously doesn't make anything that happened better, but I'm happy the story has a somehow happy ending. You can watch the documentary though for more detail. It's kind of true crime, medical documentary, so you can go ahead and watch that if you're interested. Next, I watched the National Theatre live Fleabag recording. I like the series more. It's not to say that the live performance is bad at all. It's brilliant. I think each is brilliant on their own. I think the series has things that the performance doesn't have, and vice versa. Phoebe Waller-Bridges is a genius. If you haven't watched Fleabag, go watch Fleabag. I'd recommend the series, not the performance, the live performance. I'm gonna do the next two together. So we have Love at First Sight and 5 Feet Apart. Both I watched for Haley Lou Richardson. 5 Feet Apart is a rewatch. Love at First Sight is a new movie that came this year based on a book. Run-of-the-mill rom-com drama. It was fine. It was cute. 5 Feet Apart I do like better. I think it's very grounded in the CF world and like real experience of people with CF, and I think it's just raised awareness to the disease, and it's a cute love story and kind of like a Fault in Our Stars kind of thing, but better, in my opinion. Next is Shiva Baby. I wanted to like this movie, but I hated it with passion. I don't know, I did find like glimpses of things I can relate to. Let's see what I wrote in my letterboxd review. Just no, sorry. I wanted to like this, but this just wasn't it for me. No one in this movie acted like a normal person. I don't know how to explain it. I see the potential of this and why people like it a lot. I did like the absurdity of being skinny or fat shamed at the same time. The anxiety when everyone in your family is asking about your future. people's weird difficulty to grasp the concept of being bi, but everything that wrapped it didn't click for me. I see people saying this is like Uncut Gems, which I also really didn't like, which makes sense, so I guess that really sums it up. So yeah, moving on to After Sun, which I watched again, and then Surf's Up again, and then Room, which is a rewatch. Such a great movie. The acting absolutely carries this movie. The concept is very simple. A mother who was kidnapped as a teenage girl raises her son from her abductor in captivity and finally tries to escape with the help of her son, who obviously doesn't know anything but captivity. It's kind of like a allegory of The Cave by Plato. It's kind of like that story that's all he ever known, the room that they were held captive in. It's a struggle of him learning this new world, but also his mother returning to this world and filled with maybe guilt or feeling judged for what happened to her in captivity. And it's a really interesting insight into just people, like how people think and live and operate. So yeah, it's a really, really good movie. Brie Larson won an Oscar for this. It's definitely worth watching. Again, the acting is incredible, and Jacob Tremblay, wow, at such a young age, portraying these kind of emotions and this intense stuff, but it is so good because of the script as well. I think it's written very well. Moving on to Once Upon a Studio, a short that Disney made, and they made it right. Yeah, it was beautiful. All of the characters, wow, I felt emotional. I shed a tear, I'll admit. The animation looked so good. I wish they could just go back to 2D animation. It just looks so good. I don't want 3D animation anymore. It just made me miss like the old Disney. So it was bittersweet in that sense, actually. But it was very charming, all the characters together, and then like when they all like stand for the picture at the end, you can just pause it and like trying to look for like all the characters and like see like how many you can identify. That's very cute, and it was very nice and heartwarming. Moving on to Frances Ha, nothing really happens in it. It's a character driven movie, not a plot driven movie, I think, and it works for Frances Ha. It worked for me at least. Next, I watched Whiplash, which is a rewatch. Andrew is a dysfunctional person, I think. I mean, he strives to be the best drummer, but that price of being the best is his relationship with the girl that he liked, and his father or family, or any relationships with friends like in college. And the way he falls back to that abusive relationship with his mentor, Fletcher, at the end, and the way his dad reacts to it always sends chills down my spine. And I love this movie. It's written really well. It's directed very well. It's acted very well. And it sounds very well. And again, I listen to the soundtrack a lot in my daily life. Anyways, moving on to Diary of a Wimpy Kid 1 and 2. Both rewatches. Roderick Rules is the best of the trilogy. The relationship between Greg and Roderick is great, awesome, and Rowley, of course, is iconic. Everything is iconic about these movies, actually, now that I think about it. These movies, so charming. Thank God for age-appropriate casting, which, by the way, goes to Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, as well. So moving on to November. I'm just gonna say November wasn't a great month for me, movie-wise. I didn't really feel like watching anything. So these are what I did watch. The Netflix Cup, Five Nights at Freddy's, David Holmes, The Boy Who Lived, Motherland, The Sun Rises Down Below, Fine, and Lily. Least favorite is Five Nights at Freddy's, and my favorite from this month is Fine. Those are 7 movies, 0 rewatches. That's 399 minutes, which is just over 6 hours, with an average rating of 2.5. Yeah, I said not a great month. So let's start with the Netflix Cup. It was live event between Formula One drivers and golf players. The execution was okay. There was a lot of technical difficulties, I feel like. I just wish they filmed it and edited it to like show us all the matches. But other than that, it's just great fun. Looks like everyone was having a blast. So I'm being way too nitpicky here. Like, it's not supposed to be a masterpiece or anything. Moving to Five Nights at Freddy's, until like Sister Location, I know the lore pretty well, and I liked it a lot better like that, as a internet mystery the internet had to uncover, and not like being outright told like this story. I think also like the tone wasn't clear in the movie. There's a part in the movie where they like lie together in a circle with animatronics, so it wasn't scary and it wasn't coherent. Like they stitched and matched like different parts of the lore from different parts of the timeline, which I could get why they did it, but it just didn't work for me. No, it's not a good movie. I'm so sorry. But I did went crazy when Matt Pat was there and he says, it's just a theory. Anyways, moving on. Next is David Holmes, The Boy Who Lived. It's a documentary. It's about David Holmes, who was the stunt double, one of the stunt doubles for Harry Potter, like for Daniel Radcliffe in the Harry Potter films, who had an accident in one of the stunts rehearsals that left him paralyzed. I think the thing that I got from this documentary the most is the spirit of David Holmes. He seems like such a good spirits guy who really loved and still loves being a stunt performer. Yeah, I hope people recognize stunt performers more after this movie. Next are 4 short films. So Motherland and The Sun Rises Down Below are the movies that Dylan Joseph Chitrit is the director of. Motherland is, there's not really a synopsis for this. It's a collection of snippets of life. It's filmed really, really beautifully, and I really enjoyed it. I just didn't really absolutely understand it fully, I think. But it's still beautiful and cool to watch. Next is The Sun Rises Down Below, again, from Dylan. So the movie starts with 2 homeless women arguing about like sunglasses. And then we go to 2 influencers like taking pictures like with a fake picnic and like with bikinis on like a top of a building, just like talking about their problems in life and stuff. And they see someone who's about to jump off the building. And yeah, I'm not gonna tell exactly what happens. You should go watch it yourself. Next one is Fine, which is my favorite of the month. I think it's equal with The Sun Rises Down Below. Just Fine resonated more with me. It was more relatable. It's about a dysfunctional family. Who would have thought? 2 daughters and their parents are on their way to a Passover meal, I'm pretty sure. It's a long drive and stuff. Like everyone's acting on principles. It's a really nice film. You should also go see that. And Lily is another short film. It's an animated film, like stop motion. Didn't really understand it fully, but it's basically a girl like hanging on to her childhood. That's what I have to say about it. It's fine. It's nice. Okay, finally, we're in December. We have Fight Club, Gran Turismo, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Rush, Chicken Run Donna the Nugget, The Making of Chicken Run Donna the Nugget, Schumacher, Wonka, Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, A Man Called Otto, and The Spider Within a Spider-Verse Story. I should have prefaced this before. I miss Formula One, so you can see that I have a few racing related movies. Anyways, this is 11 movies. Only one of them is a rewatch. That is 1,140 minutes, which is 19 hours on the dot. That's very satisfying, is it? Look. That's so satisfying. Average rating of 3.6, and the overall genre is sport, action, comedy. My least favorite movie of this month is Gran Turismo, and my favorite is Wonka. Let's start with Fight Club. I watched it with friends, like a group of friends. Some of them have watched it, some of them hasn't. Let's just say it was fun watching the ones who didn't watch it before and didn't know what was gonna happen watch it for the first time. If you know, you know. I mean, I think everyone knows by now. It's like the one movie that everyone knows, like, you know. Apparently not everyone knows, so I don't want to ruin it to anyone who doesn't know. So if you don't know, you can go watch it. Gran Turismo. I told you I miss racing. I had higher expectation for this. The pacing was weird. I don't know, it just felt random at times. The story itself is very inspiring, obviously, based on a true story of a Gran Turismo gamer who actually went into actual racing. That's incredible. I could never. The racing itself, I didn't quite like it. The way they showed racing, like the quick cuts, I don't know, it was too headachy for me. Like they did have like some cool editing stuff where when he was playing the game, they showed him like as if he's in a car. That was cool editing. But yeah, it's cool. Racing is cool. I like racing a lot. What can I say? It got me. It got me hard. Moving on to The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I think it's the first movie I've ever wanted to be splitted into 2 parts. Like most of the movies who are split into two parts, like Mockingjay Part 1, 2, Deathly Hallows, most of them were all collectively are like, yeah, they could have just cut a lot of that out and put it in one movie. But this one specifically, no, I wish it was two movies. I wish it was like everything until the end of the games, and then everything when he's a peacekeeper. I think there was more to look at and to say there and to understand there. The singing was very cringy at times, but the day will come where I listen to things from this soundtrack on a daily basis. Overall, it's a good movie. I did enjoy it. Me and my sister enjoyed it thoroughly. So that's The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is a mouthful. Oh my god. Moving on to Rush, another racing movie. I heard a lot of great things about Rush, how it's historically accurate and a really good racing movie. And I think they were right. It's a really good movie. I just searched up my letterboxd review just to refresh my memory on what I think about this movie. I absolutely love how gay-coded F1 drivers are, especially the enemies to lovers trope. They're all so in love with each other. Anyways, Rush is a good movie about having the balance relationship between enemies, how this rivalry between James Hunt and Niki Lauda built them together. Like they built each other to end with a lot of respect to each other, which is exactly what Verstappen is. Oh my god. The racing in this, opposing to Gran Turismo, was done incredibly well. I really liked the way they showed the racing here. Like, I don't know why the rapid fire like editing in Rush was way better and like felt suitable or appropriate in Rush than in Gran Turismo. Moving to Chicken Run 2 and the making of Chicken Run 2, I don't think it is as traumatizing as the first one is, which is good. It was dragging a bit until the actual heist part of the movie started. You can predict everything that is going to happen, obviously, but it was still fun nonetheless. Obviously, have a lot of respect and appreciation to the art form itself. It takes so much time and dedication and patience to make this kind of thing with claymation. But yeah, the humor was fun as always. I fucking love Babs. Look at the poster. Look at this. She's also a hen, that's what it says. You know, like a Ken. And her knitting, oh, bless her soul. Then I watched Schumacher. It shows Michael's journey into F1, who he was as a driver and who he was as a person. I think there's a good balance of talking heads and like archival footage. The soundtrack is incredibly powerful, and I think it's an extraordinary story that even people who don't know F1 or don't like F1 could enjoy and like watch and admire. It was very emotional and exciting, and if you have any interest, go watch Schumacher. And then I watched Wonka. I just want to open this segment about Wonka and say that I never ever doubted Timmy as Wonka. I knew he would be perfect for the role, and I was right. He is perfect for the role. I love his portrayal of Willy Wonka. I think he does an amazing job. And yes, of course, I didn't see the original, okay? So what? So kill me. But I still think he embodies like Willy Wonka spirit really well. The wonder, the silliness, the creativity. I think Timothée Chalamet is a great actor. I've talked about it before, and he fits the role very well in my opinion. And I never ever cringed at him when he said, "No, actually scratch that, reverse it." And I didn't cringe during the movie at all. And I know that sounds sarcastic, and I'm saying that I actually did cringe, but I didn't. I promise. I loved every second of it. I really liked Wonka. I enjoyed it all, except for the Oompa Loompa. I didn't like the Oompa Loompa. The one thing, okay, sure, they did need to say that this was a musical, because people who don't like musicals with a passion. But on the other hand, every Willy Wonka movie is a musical, and you could have easily guessed it from the trailer. But okay, no, you get this one. You're right, they should have just blatantly said this is a musical. They shouldn't hide this from us. You could have guessed it, but they should have said it. I really like the dynamic between Willy Wonka and Noodle apple strudel. Olivia Colman, of course. I love her. Everything she does is gold. Everything she touches is just gold. She's a treasure. I do need to open the soundtrack of this movie and add what I want to my playlist, so I could listen to music from this movie on the daily. Next we have Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Yet another racing movie, and it's the last one. Let me assure you, okay? That's it, I promise. So Talladega Nights is a comedy about the best nice guy driver ever who gets into an accident and then he's afraid of driving and he has to overcome his fear. This movie touches on his relationship with his wife and his best friend and his team and his enemy and his dad and his mom and his sons and himself and racing. But basically it's a nonsense Will Ferrell comedy, which I actually don't particularly like. I tried watching Anchorman like 5 minutes in, I was like, nope, not for me. But this one I actually really enjoyed. Like some of the jokes didn't land, but I knew they wouldn't land, so I wasn't disappointed by that. But a lot of them did. Like there's a lot of iconic things from this movie that made me want to watch it. This is a really fun turn your brain off movie, and it seems like it was so much fun to make. Like even if things weren't funny for me, I could appreciate the fact that they're all just friends who was being goofy and laughing with themselves, who happened to be established Hollywood actors with budget and an ability to make this huge production come to life. Which, by the way, talking about production, the racing in this looks so good. It looks the best, like out of the three that I've talked about. Moving on to A Man Called Otto. Talking about Wonka, about marketing a movie is what it is. From the trailers to this movie, you might think this is a light-hearted comedy about a grumpy man who just warms up to new neighbors and enjoy life eventually. But this is a very sad movie about a man who lost the love of his life and wants to join her in death. Basically everything that is funny in the movie and lighthearted is in the trailer. Like everything else that you don't see in the trailer that it is in the movie is dark and sad. Now, about the actual plot of the movie, I feel like it could have been a really good short film because it was really repetitive. Like the same thing happened just over and over and over again. And the backstory, I think, comes up too late. Like it could have just happened earlier in the movie. And then the ending, well, first of all, I thought it was going to end like multiple times. I was like, oh, okay, it's gonna end. It's gonna end now. No, it's gonna end right now. And this is the end. No, this is the end. And it just never ended. And then when it did end, it was all over the place kind of and rushed as well. So it's okay. It's an okay movie. I don't hate this movie. Very emotional movie. I'm purposely leaving some actual plot points out because I don't want to ruin it to people. Yeah, we're now at the final movie of the year, The Spider Within, a Spider-Verse story. It's a short movie that occurs before Across the Spider-Verse, and it depicts a panic attack that Miles is having. Now, if you've seen anything from the Spider-Verse universe, you know the visuals can go crazy, so you just might imagine what a sleep paralysis could look like in that style, which a lot of people went crazy over. Like I watched it on TikTok because I couldn't find anywhere else to watch it. So poor quality, not best sound system, not like a big screen, sure. So maybe that's why I didn't like have a huge reaction to it, but people in the comments went fucking insane. And because of that overreaction, I came in prepared, and then I was disappointed, obviously, but it's still good. It's still really good. It's made very good. And if you've ever experienced sleep paralysis or anxiety, you feel anxiety when you watch it. Absolutely, they conveyed it very well. But other than that, I think a really important thing is that they talk about this important subject matter that is anxiety and mental health, especially showing that Spider-Man, the most relatable superhero ever made, that's his whole purpose, that everyone can be under the mask. So showing him struggling with this mental health and anxiety is so important, because it shows that even this superhero can deal with these things, which they are normal and we should talk about them more, and he still manages to be Spider-Man. So this was my year of film. Glad to close it on a good, meaningful note. Yeah, if you survived this far, thank you so much. This is incredible. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying. Even if you just watched like parts of it, I don't care. Like, thank you for listening to any of it, honestly. And I'll see you next year. Bye.